if you could just kind of kick it off for me one more time, like what is a day in the life of Doug right now? Because I think for most of us that aren't familiar with equestrian training, that's just a beautiful place to start.
Yeah, well, my life is a lot different as a horse trainer now than it was, say, even 2 years ago. I'm working more towards, building it out remotely so I can do it anywhere and help more people. That was the goal. But um, I still love to be hands-on. We still do live events. We're headed to one tomorrow up in northern British Columbia. So um, yeah, it's basically just training horses or training people or learning the software that gets me there.
Yeah, and maybe what led you to the world of Coach Now, right? You're looking around, and what led you to us?
Oh, it was fortunate, that was for sure. I was so happy to find you guys, but, you know, I I've been down this online training deal, I gotta tell you, from a buddy of mine was one of my first marketers back in, like, 2004, is when the
Mm.
internet first came out. We was trading marketing for, me doing work on his wife's horse, and he said, one day," he said, "you're gonna be able to teach this stuff online to everybody around the world," and I'm like, "I'm having a hard enough time right now teaching it. I couldn't imagine it teaching it online." But fast forward from there to 2010, we launched our first online course, and
Oh,
it
you're
was
ahead
at
of the
a
game. Yeah.
yeah, well, it was kind of a punch in the gut. I got a double punch to the gut there pretty quick on the deal, but yeah, it was just too early. Like it was at a live event, a big horse expo. Like 12 to 14,000 people come through the gate, and it was a trainer challenge, a competition. And I won the competition, and we'd done a big launch, and not one person signed up. So
Mhm.
I'd had a lot invested into it. And I was going to Europe 3 times a year to Switzerland. So a buddy over there,
Wow.
that's what his niche was, is he was into e-learning, he called it, and he was doing lots of stuff for corporations and banks and stuff like that. So he took on the project. I told him I'm broke, bud, but he took on the project and financed it all. I flew over to Switzerland a week early, and we shot all the got all the footage, shot all the lessons, and it was at their fair, BEA they call it in Switzerland. He launched it there. There was hundreds of thousands of people walked through the door over 10 days, and same thing. We had a big booth. He had it staffed like, man, I felt like a celebrity over there. I thought it was really going to be a hit, and I think he got 15 or 20 people signed up. But yeah, another
Yeah.
another swing and a miss. So yeah, we didn't. So fast forward to 2018 is when we launched again, and that was kind of out of a necessity. I had to have open heart surgery, so that was
Oh,
taking me out
wow.
of the
Okay.
financial provider there. So we launched over there, and it worked out pretty good, and it's just built from there. Then COVID really put fuel on the fire. But training horses online is it's not heard of. I don't have anybody to follow. There's lots of people trying it, but it's all done with um, video library. So you watch a video and try to copy that.
Right.
Well, it's like a golf swing or a pitch. It's pretty much the same. Everybody has their different style, but
Yeah.
imagine, and then teaching people their style and working with their style. Now imagine trying to teach a horse to do a golf swing, you know, and then
Exactly, right.
take it a step further, teach a person how to teach a horse how to do a golf swing.
Man, yeah, you're so right. It adds a completely different element. We do have some dog trainers in the platform as well. So it's very interesting once you add another live element, not just an implement like a bat or a golf club, right? It's completely different. And so
Totally.
did you land on Coach Now? How long ago did you get started with us?
Right off the bat in 2018, yeah, I researched a
Beautiful.
few.
Okay.
I knew I needed to have some video coaching for sure, and my big thing is I needed to be able to make it simple, so
Yeah.
for both myself and my students to run. I have a lot of agent students. Like there's basically two avatars that I work with. One is the performance horse trainers that want to become, compete at high level. And that's
Okay.
kind of what we set out to build. That was a program I was trying to build. But along the line, what kept the doors open and fed everything was the beginner riders learning how to be safe on their horse, like first time riders and stuff. So
Got
we
it.
we learned that the results that we were getting in order to make them willing in the show pen also made them safe for the beginner riders. So that's kind of our two niches that we've shoved forward on. So I knew I needed it,
Love
for
it.
the aging population to be simple to run. And CoachNow was that. It was easy for them to send me a video. I got a notification. All I had to do is click on their video, hit the microphone, and I could talk over top of it. I needed to be everything's timed. So I
Yeah.
needed to be talking right at the time that they needed to add the correction. And yeah, it's been great. Like I think I had one call with Alex, I think it was back in the
Yeah.
beginning. And
Yeah. He was the one that suggested we connect, and he's been following along with what you're doing.
yeah, yeah, no, it's been awesome.
Man.
I really appreciate
Well,
you guys. Like there's no way that, and I looked at a few others, but man, there was lots of complications that went along with it. And I just, if I couldn't run the software after, playing around with it for a while, I knew that they'd be frustrated.
absolutely. No, and I'm so happy to hear you say all that. And it's funny as you reflect back on your online career and your heavy investments with not much return. It's something I speak a lot about now because we've all experienced it. So one of the things we talk about in our blueprint courses, and the most recent one that just came out, is all about digitizing your expertise, creating online products, which is what you're doing a good job of. But the very first tenet, and this is maybe a little bit for you, but more so anybody that's listening to this, like, don't build anything until you sell it. Sell it first and then build it. What most coaches end up doing is investing time and energy in building it, and they hope people buy it.
Hmm.
And that's what most people would think, but you kind of want to go in the reverse, right? You want to make sure there's a market there for what you're about to do.
Oh, that's such good advice too. And I've failed at that lots, but the unique thing about my business is, like I said, back in 2004, ever since Buddy told me that, I've been trying to simplify lessons and narrow
Yeah.
it down, right? And that's kind of how I found the secret sauce, if you will, to the horse training world, right? And to make them willing, it was trying to make it simpler. Our motto was
Yeah.
right way back when was to make it accessible for the greenest rider to have success for a tough horse. And
Yeah, that part I found very interesting, the tough horse part, because I was looking through your website today, looking at some of the content that you guys are creating, and it seemed that stuck out. And are people actively searching for help in that way? It sounds like it, right? Where I've got a tough horse, I might want to give up the horse, and you help them make that leap, right, and get past it.
oh, big time.
Yeah.
That's a big part of our market now. And when I say tough horse, referring to a tough horse for them. I don't, a horse is a horse. It don't necessarily make them a tough horse, but if they're
Okay.
handled wrong, and if they feel like they're being pestered and nagged, I find a lot of times people just pester them enough to make them mad with no understanding of
Mhm.
what's accepted of them, right? And once you got to have clear boundaries, and so there's lots of moving parts to make that all work. But as soon as you hone in on simple exercises that can create an end game, that stops the nagging, so people know exactly when to quit. And that's where Coach Now comes in, because I can tell them now you got the skill set, because they have to develop that skill set to be able to move a horse away from them. That's the hardest thing to learn, is how to successfully move that horse away. And that comes from respect, because if you just lift your hand up is the kind of command he needs to move from. But if he doesn't respond to that, you need to follow through with pressure and direct it in a way that he understands to leave, but he doesn't know the limit of your pressure. So I find with green riders and horses, they're always trying to build a bond with their horse and build that trust, right? And build that relationship. And that relationship is on shaky ground if you don't have the respect first, and that respect comes from moving them.
That is really interesting. I did watch one of your critiques of one of your athletes today, just kind of prepping for, and I say athletes because that's not a
Yeah,
maybe the
that's
most
what I
accurate
call them
term,
too.
but yeah, great. Okay, perfect. So one of the comments you were making was, or maybe she was identifying, is that her feet were really still in this particular exchange with the horse, and maybe not to spook the horse or upset them in any way. And I'm only pointing this out because, as you addressed in the very beginning, every sport has its very specific movement patterns and tips and tricks and all this stuff. But now you throw an animal, and a huge animal that might have had a rough history, or you just are freaking out, so you're transferring that fear to the horse.
Mhm.
Just for my own education and just interest level, what kind of technical things are you working with, in addition to kind of hand placement with a green rider? What are some of the things that you talk about?
Well, as I said there before, Spencer, it's all about moving horse, because when
Okay.
2 horses come together, that's the first thing that happens. It's the pecking order. And that's the once that's
Oh, okay.
solved, then now there's a level playing ground because a horse needs to know where his position is in that pecking order before he will listen to any command that you give him, right? He won't listen to one
Hmm.
thing you ask until that's been established. And that's why I say if I'm just trying to build a bond with him, he's not interested in building a bond. He's interested in seeing who can push who. And if he steps, it comes right up to me. I think, oh, what a nice horse. He's really quiet and calm, and he loves to be pet on and stuff like that. And then he starts getting closer to you, and rubs you with his head, and you back up a step or two, and then that's a notch in his pistol, right? So he just starts building. And then when you start
Ah,
saying, okay, now I want to control this horse, and let's go lead him over to the arena and start doing our lessons. And he walks out in front of you, and you're trying to hold him back the whole time. So he argued all the way to the arena because horses that sees you as a leader, they walk behind you. Clearly, they don't have to be taught that. They
ah,
they automatically do that. It same with a dog kind of deal. It's
yeah.
if you need to recognize when that pecking order is out of sort and make that the first thing you address. And what I find is interesting, I didn't know this growing up. I didn't know that when I was training. I'd already been training horses for 20 years when I stumbled onto that, and it come from teaching green riders to have success with tough horses. I couldn't figure out why I could take their horse into training and it'd be perfect for me or at a clinic at a live setting and hand it back to them, and in seconds that thing would be walking all over them. And so it kind of evolved over the last 20, 30 years.
Wow. And I bet from a business perspective, if you're able to say in X amount of time, instead of that horse leading you, you're going to be leading the horse just in the simplest terms, that seems like an awesome hook for anybody that would want to come and see you, right? Just to be able to make that change would be worth whatever money, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it is huge and it starts there. But I mean, another problem I find with our industry is everybody's an expert at it because horses will make you believe you're an expert. If you've had any time with them, you can
Mm,
change them, but it's all your perspective, right? Because I grew up on a ranch where our horses were wild. They weren't even halter trained. And, my
wow.
first horse that I trained, I was 8 years old, and it was all about restraint pressure, about holding him and controlling him. But when I'm working on a ranch, like everything we did was his first job was on the second day I ever rode him was out pushing cows, right? He had a job to do,
Mm,
and you can get away with murder when they got a job. It's the hobby riders or the arena work that really sours them because they don't see a purpose for what they're doing. But when you start putting a spin on the pecking order, like I talked about, now it's in their best interest to do that because you asked them to do it and they learned how to do it. And then they learned that there's an easier way to do it, and that's patterns that we got to work through it. Once they know that's the easiest job, then that's it. So to answer your question, I'm sorry about going round and round, but
no, this is great.
so
It's fascinating.
I'm trying to uh, appeal to people who have got a mindset from a lot of different perspectives, right? It's all perspective. And people grow up. I find if people's had a tough life, if they've been abused a little bit or beat up on in life, like a lot of us have been, then the pecking order is not a thing we want to talk about with a horse. We only want to build a bond. We want to, train them with
Mm,
treats because there's a whole system out there that trains horses. They call it clicker training, right? They'll make a sound with a clicker and then give him a treat. So then they teach him to do something and then they click the sound right when they wanted him to do. So,
right.
and then they'll give him a treat for it. So it's treat based, which is cool until you're out on a trail and everybody takes off and goes home, or lightning strikes right close to you, and
Mm.
everybody wants to bolt, and you know being able to control him, and you're out there trying to find your clicker to stop this thing, it ain't going to work very good.
Yeah, you gotta have that deeper bond established in those best practices that you're describing. That makes total sense.
Yeah, and
And
we do it. What makes it
yeah,
easy because it's a step by step process. You have to teach them. Every lesson we teach them is about body control and movement, but it's all
okay.
based with the pecking order first. And they will show you on a day to day basis. So when I ask my horse to move on day two, I'm going to ask him with as subtle and light a pressure as I possibly can, and he's going to tell me, because understanding is not the issue. He's going to tell me whether he respects me enough, and then I just send him more. Right, I make the release a little bit
Yeah.
later, so he gives me a bigger move, and then I ask him right after that. and he gives me a subtle move from a subtle command, so that's the end game. Once he knows that, he can move early or he can move late, and man, it's game over. But again, Trent, it sounds simple until you step in the pin and start, battling your old perceptions and stuff.
Well, as somebody that doesn't spend really any time around horses, I did a tiny bit when I was younger. I mean, it doesn't sound simple at all. So the fact that you can help people get to those points, so much value in that. And I'm curious, as your business has evolved, because you've been doing this a long time, what are some of the lessons that you've been learning, let's say over the last 5 years, including COVID, because COVID, I'm sure, changed a lot of things for you, like it did a lot of other folks.
Mhm.
What are some of the best practices that you've started to adopt? I know CoachNow is one of them. Anything else that you can kind of speak to that might translate not only into the world of that you're in, but maybe other coaches and trainers out there too? Is there anything that you might be able to share that you've learned over the last little bit?
There's so many things like our results that we're getting is so different, right? So I'm
Okay.
doing more transformation into remote coaching just because it's my passion to stay in this is to help people have results. And
Yeah.
excuse me, the live results is just they're real frustrating to me because we're not getting the results, right? I can go and grab the horse and I can turn the horse
Mm,
around in 30 seconds faster than I can explain what I'm doing. But in a live setting, they're being coached on all of their moves, right? Where if
hmm
my online students, they got a video to watch, they do the video, then they send it in. Them watching themselves on the video is transformational.
It really is.
It, the results are just it's crazy. Like I've taught people I've got students I've had for 20 years, and the the speed of success that the online students are gaining that is it's unbelievable.
I love that, right? Putting people into a space of accountability, really important, giving them the opportunity to have feedback not only from you, but for them to learn what they need to be looking out for. The acceleration, as you're saying, of improvement is so much quicker. And even if you are in person, right, you want to video what they're doing, you want to review it, they need to go home and watch it.
Mhm.
So hopefully, right, it's whether it's purely remote or what we would call connected coaching, where there's in person and remote, and it's all blended together in a nice package. The key that you said there is those athletes need to make sure that they're reviewing the content, especially when they're watching themselves, right?
Well, totally. Like the ones that show up, the one that asks the most questions and shows up, they're the winners, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's a learning curve, but I mean, something else I'll add, Spencer, is don't shy away from getting some help. Like as soon as we could afford it, like I
Yes.
still would work out and do clinics and stuff and work away. And my daughters work with me. So there's a team of us, my two daughters. One daughter does social media, the other daughter does sell calls because
Awesome.
we're all high ticket and stuff. So it's a learning curve for all of us. And I just, they learn their deal and I learn my deal. I'm trying to get better at content and teaching. But yeah, you have to be okay with sucking at some stuff until you get better at it.
Man, you're dropping some nuggets. One of which I talk about all the time. You got to bring people onto your team, whether it be other coaches or whether it be people in the background doing your business development. You're going to learn a ton. You can't be afraid. A lot of coaches are afraid to adopt technology or put themselves out there. You've clearly been an early adopter for a long time, so that's a skill set that you've got above everybody else, which is probably why you're having so much success. I really love hearing that your family is working with you. I mean, that's a dream of mine to have my little guys working with me on something. You did mention the word high ticket. That's another thing that you just kind of glazed over, but that's a very important phrase that a lot of coaches don't even know is high ticket, low ticket, et cetera. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the offers, the high tickets, the programs you're running. There's a lot to learn in that.
Oh, man. Because, as a trainer and a coach, we're always measuring ourselves by the hour, right? How much we're worth by the hour. And so
I know,
I
I know.
started trying to put put together a program around that, right? So our first launch that we done that we had any success with was it was in 2018, like I said, right after my heart surgery, and my son was doing one of those trainer challenges, and he won that as well. And so we ended up
Cool.
getting, yeah, I think we ended up getting 20 or 30 students. So that ticket there and it's the full library, everything in the library, unlimited coaching,
Okay.
They could send a video as much as they wanted, and I done the math, like how if I coached a video every day on those that would show up every day, because I had no idea how many videos they would send. So
Yeah, you don't
uh,
know, right? You
I
give it a
priced it at
guess.
yeah, I priced it at $888 for the year. So it's $88 a month or
Okay.
888 for the year kind of deal. And we learned a ton. I learned how to coach. I didn't know how to run CoachNow. I learned how that all worked and what feedback to give, and I just kept getting better at that. And then we took a we took an online course from one of Russell's students and stuff. Russell
Yep.
Brunson. Yeah. So, and
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
he kind of talks into high ticket and stuff. And man, I thought I'm having a hard enough time getting people at eight. How am I going to get somebody to pay
Yeah.
high ticket? And boy, what a change that was, right? Because now when you get high ticket and over deliver, you're
Yes.
giving them the value, you're giving them what they need, but you have the money to do it right, and you have the reach to go out and reach more people around the world that need the help. Because I
So
was
what's
kind of
high
wrapped
ticket in your world? What are you pricing the high ticket at these days?
right now. It's 6 grand for the year, and
If
and
you
it's
get
going
if you
up.
get high quality coaching, I mean,
Yeah, and
that's
and
that's
that's
actually a
going
pretty
up.
good
That'll
deal.
be,
Yeah.
it'll be. I got other coaches coming up. I got trainers that are training. All my kids are trainers as well. So I've got two boys that are going to be moving into the coaching. I'm pretty sure of that. Anyway, they don't know that yet, but
Yep.
they've thought about it. But they're they haven't been squeezed enough, I guess, yet. Try that. They don't really know what it entails yet. But
Right.
as we got more people helping, then I'm going to be more expensive to get. I'll be working with just the real problems, or the high end that want to go high end, achieve a lot.
I'll tell you what, I mean, if anybody's listening to this right now, you need to pay real close attention to what Doug is doing because you are nailing it, man. I just want to recap what you've said so far, which is stuff I preach every single day. So I'm so happy you're doing this. One, high ticket, $6,000 a year. That's not that much money. I mean, especially if it's over an annual period, but you want to sell an annual coaching program because that's how you can deliver the most value. That's how they can improve. There's a long enough window. You're not selling hourly coaching lessons, whatever. Like, I hate that. So great job. You're also going to be raising the price. Perfect. And then the other is you're bringing in people that increase your perceived value in the sense that a junior coach maybe wouldn't be charging what you're going to be charging. Maybe they start at 6,000 and to get to you, it's 10,000, 15,000, who knows? But you're creating a pricing tier that makes complete sense and it gives you a ton of leverage as the business owner to only work with who you want while having a business that's kind of growing in the background. I mean, so good.
Hmm.
I'm so happy to hear
Yeah, I
you
mean
say all these
that's
things.
and that high ticket is not really considered high ticket from who I'm learning from, but it
Well,
my
you got to know where
customers
your
are.
industry's at. Yeah.
That's just going to say, with the customers, another one of our mission statements is we want the customer for life, right? We want to keep them for life because we have competitions and challenges 3 times a year. So it's like a horse show. So once they get good at this stuff,
Cool.
they can go and compete at it. And, right now we're giving really nice buckles and stuff, but in the future, we hope to give horse trailers and retreats and things like that we
Wow.
give away. Right. But yeah, and that's all comes from high ticket. If we was still back at 888 for the year, I'd be, knocking them out. And like I said, but the different mentality of the people that I got was huge. Way less tickets, right? For um, oh, you know what I mean, like the
Support or complaints or
troubleshooting, yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
complaints or
Yeah.
whatever, returns, and that stuff goes right down when you
Yep.
when you reach that high level,
But
high ticket.
but isn't that wild, right? Making that jump. There's a lot of fear associated with making that jump going, "Hey, am I worth it? Do people think I'm worth it?" The reality is whoever you're interacting with currently is likely not the right customer. And
No,
you
that was
have, like you've described, you found the right customer for your business. Not to say
right.
they're a bad customer. It's just you want to grow your business the way you want to grow it.
Hmm.
And I think when I hear 888 for the year, yeah, maybe there's an opportunity for those folks to have uh, on-demand learning opportunities. They're still in your world. They're still a customer of yours. And then you upsell them to these other things. And if you have that nice blend, then you've got a really winning business.
Hmm. Yeah, and we're trying to do that. We're gonna try to get a mid ticket, right? And,
Hmm.
a low ticket to kind of feed the pool, and yeah, so it is a learning deal. We're learning lots and having fun with it. I mean, that's a cool thing. Like I said, working with my daughters, and
Yeah.
they're excited about it, super excited. So, and they're learning lots, and yeah, it's if you are on the fence about thinking about going online, I would definitely just jump off. Like you gotta jump
Yeah.
off and get start getting your feet dirty, right? Just you gotta dive in. Nothing's gonna work right in the beginning. You'll be frustrated. Like I said, I launched 2 times and they were big launches, should have been successful, especially the second one. It should have,
Yeah.
I thought for a long time, maybe I'm just not cut out for that, or horse training is never gonna be that. But,
Yeah.
we live in a different world today for sure.
We definitely do, and one thing that always comes to mind when you're looking at your audience and you're trying to figure out what the price points might be, right? It's very different across each industry. But when I hear, "Hey, I have a horse," I think, "Wow, you must have a lot of money to have a horse." Just not knowing anything, I think you got to board the horse, you got to take care of the horse. Just having a dog is a costly thing, right? So then you just exponentially more for a horse. So then I think, of course, this particular person with the right amount of coaching, they're going to want to have a quality relationship with their horse. They're going to have certain goals and objectives to compete or whatever else it might be. They want to return on that investment. So why wouldn't they get in your world and spend more than the average person to make sure that investment is everything they hoped it would be? So I got to
Mhm.
imagine you have a pretty big audience probably around the world that you can tap into, given how many people are horse owners and horse lovers and also have that level of income. Have
Yeah.
you had success moving outside of the states? It sounded like you did, but tell me about your business and where people are coming from.
Well, just US and Canada is all we're focused
U.S.
on
and
now,
Canada.
but
Okay.
word of mouth has taken us to Spain. We have some customers in Spain, so they are going around, and we're kind of keeping a keeping it kind of tight right now. Just
Okay.
we got enough to test in our ads and our wording and stuff
Yeah.
like that. To I don't feel it's ready to go all the way around the world everywhere yet, but
But word of mouth is going to bring you there regardless, like you said. It's just
yeah,
going to happen, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to happen, and it's yeah, it's like I said, it's yeah. I don't need to say that. I already said that.
Well, we're in 140 some odd countries and 60 plus sports, and we advertise very little, if at all. It just happens. If you're doing good things, it grows, and you do your best to manage it.
That's
But
awesome.
I do want to talk. Well, thank you. Yes, and I we've been doing it a long time, just like you, and I'm happy that we're still in business and we get to work with folks like you. It's so cool. Um, Talk to me about your ads, though. I'm curious because a lot of coaches are not advertising. They're scared to do it. Obviously, their offers need to be compelling enough and worth enough to where running ads makes sense. You can't be selling 1 hour lessons for $50 and running ads. That's not going to work. How long have you guys been running ads? What kind of things have you learned? What kind of things would you suggest others do when they get started?
Well, again, the biggest thing is get some help. Like when we went high ticket is when we started paying for Facebook ads, and now
Okay.
we're kind of venturing into, my daughter is anyway, into Instagram and TikTok. But
Okay.
it's we're finding, like, doing the numbers now. Our acquisition cost is pretty high, but like I said, if we keep them for life, then it goes
Yeah.
down. But the we're finding people, they gotta get to know you, like, they gotta hang around, so we have people in our funnel that
Okay.
are still buying, that's been in there for year and a half, 2 years. So it
Hmm.
does take a while. Their horse, like you said, for some people, a horse is just, like, buying a ticket to go see a movie, and then other people, it's their whole life
Yeah.
savings into that horse. So
Right.
either way, they do get attached to that thing, and again, there's so many different ways and methods out there to train a horse, and a lot of horse stories from trainers and stuff. So it makes everybody pretty gun shy. So that's kind of
Okay.
what we're learning now, and we pump our results, right? That's basically what we sell, is the results. We let the students do the talking, but they need to know us. They need to know how long we've been doing it. We're a family business. Like, we're not a big corporation. Like, sometimes people will want us to fix things like we're a corporation through the night, and we
Yeah.
can't, right? We're still a small mom and pop show, but when it comes to delivering the goods on what you need with your horse, we're all about that.
Yeah, and so you're leaning into testimonials. Is that what a lot of your ads are driven by? Is somebody giving you a nice quote and then it links off to your landing page?
Yeah, we're mixing it up,
Yeah,
right? We got lots of things. We got lots of, you know, me and my family's won more trainer challenges than anybody in the world, but we don't, it's not our style to pump that stuff. And I mean,
sure.
it's, if anybody goes against us, they better draw the right horse, because if they don't draw the right horse, there's no chance of them beating us, right? I mean, I know that
I love
sounds
it.
really bold, but that's not something we want to put in an ad. It's not our style to do that, but it's how
Yep.
confident we are in the program, right? So we're mixing it up a little bit. Like, it's never, like I said, never been my style to do that, but we let the students kind of do the talking, and it's
That's really the key. I think you want to sell results and then you back those results up with all your credibility, your
mhm.
certifications, winning these challenges. Because what I see a lot of coaches lead is with the other side. So they make the mistake of saying celebrating all their certifications and awards.
Yeah,
And ultimately, if I'm a golfer, a tennis player, or I'm a horse owner, I don't really care about any of that. I only care what you can do for me
yeah.
because I'm that's why I'm looking here. I want to know if you could help me.
Yeah. Can I,
All
yeah,
your
can,
fancy paperwork doesn't mean anything to me.
so true.
So I think you've nailed it exactly, and you'll keep refining and keep learning. I mean, running ads is such a skill set. We're in the midst of hiring somebody right now to come in and kind of take over some stuff for us too. But
Mhm.
it's tough. And your point to bringing somebody on, whether it's a family member as you're lucky to have, or a contractor or somebody, you got to bring somebody in with the expertise, right? Because there's no way as a coach you can do it all.
No, no, that's right. And
Yeah.
I'm the same way. When I go find somebody, right? There's all kinds of ads out there for people who want to help you build an online business, and they always
I
start with their
know.
fancy house or jet in the background. And and the guy that we picked, he was kind of a hold your hand and do it for you. That's what we need, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what we do in the horse deal too. Is we're going to be in the trenches with you, and it doesn't scale very high, and that's why the high ticket's going to keep going up, because
Yeah.
it's labor intensive. But as long as my passion is to keep doing that, I'm gonna hang in there, right? I don't got to be the biggest in the world, but I am trying to be the best.
Yeah. And I think what you're landing on over time is an ecosystem that you're building, a community of people that are, whether they're high ticket, low ticket, or following you for free on your newsletter, whatever it is, it doesn't matter as long as you've got that relationship, they know you and they trust you. They're going to buy at some point if they haven't already. And the more offers that you make that are compelling, you're going to have a really winning business. And it already sounds like you do. And it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger from what I can hear. I mean, it just sounds like you're doing so many things right. That's why I'm like really harping on it because the majority of conversations I have are not with coaches that are doing what you're doing. So I'm just
Oh,
really
thank
happy
you.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't
So if
really
nothing
take the
else, this will be a confirming call that you guys are doing it.
I can't really take credit for that, other than just I don't quit. I hang in
At
there, and
least you're,
I surround myself with good people.
yeah, you're open to it. You've been doing it a long time. Those kind of two elements will breed success for sure. So let's talk about the different avatars again, because I think this is interesting. You're in our world, or even in your world, right? You're coaching athletes, and then you're also coaching those that want to be trainers or want to be coaches. Um, let's talk about that side of the business a little bit and how you're mentoring those folks and what kind of offers you're presenting them. Maybe they're very similar to the ones you're presenting the athletes. I'm just kind of curious about that side of your business.
Yeah, well, so far I've just found, Spencer, that the ads are different, right? Once I get them in the
Okay.
program, and I start teaching them, I whether they want to be a trainer or they got to go through the same steps. So if they want to be a trainer,
Got it.
they have to do the same steps that Susie does, just to go have a nice trail ride with her horse, and then they can progress from there. So how what I'm looking for is more, um, their integrity level, right? How they show up, their work ethic, how how they treat people is going to be more important to me than how they can train a horse, right?
Yeah.
If they got some grit and grind, they can go at it and they show up. I know I can make them better with a horse. I've seen it time and time again. But if they if if they're not really in it for the long haul, then that'll show up too. So, to be honest with you, I just kind of let the chips fall where they will in that area, right? I don't I haven't learned
It,
much that makes a difference in that area, is what I should say, I guess.
interesting. And is your aim with that side of your business to have folks that are quote unquote certified in the Doug Mills method, so they're like representatives of your business, or are these folks that are taking this program and they're going to go have be completely independent in their own business? How is that working for you?
Kind of like I said, both, right? I think the cream will
Okay.
rise to the top. Like I would love to show up at Snaffle Futurity with one or two students that are just kicking it, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do is change the world the way horses are trained. I mean, the performance horse world is kind of the last part of the horse world that got horsemanship in it. Horsemanship being
Okay.
a better way kind of deal, right? So um, and they used to make fun of cowboys, saying that cowboys' methods were rough and tough. But now, since in the last 10, 15 years, that's really swapped over. Now, the English side of things, they
Mm,
haven't progressed since, since the war horses, right? I mean, they're still doing the same techniques and the horses have really changed. Like the horses are getting smarter and they're more, you know, they're way keener and more fiery. So a lot of them old
wow.
tactics aren't working with them horses. We've gotten too good at our breeding programs.
Ah, that's so
So
interesting to
yeah, I mean,
hear.
English or
Yeah.
Western, a performance horse to me is anything that is judged or speed, like a rodeo event.
Got it.
I'd love to see my top students, doing good in all of those events. And just because it's so much easier on the horse, it's so much,
Yes, of
and a lot
course.
of times people think it's easier on them because the horse can always find an answer. We're not just drilling him with, maneuvers over and over and over again to make him good. We're giving him a choice to be good. And it does two things. It exposes that good horse right off the bat. So if you buy a futurity prospect, right, because they're doing amazing things with them when they're 3 and 4 years old, and whether I agree with that or not, it's not the issue. It's how can we make that better for the horse's perspective, and if
Yeah.
he's just drilled, and if I can find out early in his career that he's not going to make it as a 3-year-old, I can save the customer money. I can put him on the back burner, let him grow up, or he not make it at that industry at all. I can figure out it's what he does naturally that he wants to do. It shows you how much heart he's going to have to do that job. It's like a jumper or anything else. If you got one that really wants to jump and picks his knees up easy and goes, put your time into that one versus doing all the tricks and techniques we can do to teach them to pick their legs up and stuff and
Right.
count strides. Like I'm just a big believer in staying out of their way and let them present themselves. And I'm fortunate enough and blessed enough to have the opportunity to ruin enough horses to find that, I guess.
Yeah, I bet, right? A lot of mistakes, I'm sure, were made
Oh,
and
big
continue to
time.
be.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say
It's
ruin them,
gotta be
but you
so
know what I
hard.
mean. You get my point. It
I
was,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, it's such a yeah, such a unique business that you're in, and it's continues to be so interesting to me as we talk about it. But I do wanna kinda hammer a little bit more on the trainer side and ask you because you mentioned earlier that you're bringing some trainers up in to kind of replace some of the coaching that you're maybe doing now so that you can work only in specific areas. Is it a vision of yours to continue to grow that pool of coaches and maybe have folks in Spain and folks in Australia that are kind of under your umbrella and you can all work together to help people out?
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally.
Cool.
That vision is strong, but like I said, it's going to be organic. I'm not going to really
Yeah.
push it. Um, like I said, the cream will rise to the top, and it might not even be someone who had a vision of being a trainer at all. They just get good enough at it
Right.
that the spark ignites after they've been in. I've got some of the people that are still in my program from the very beginning, and holy cow, the things that they can do with horses that they never, they never even had division. They just got in it to get some help to get by a couple horses, and since then they've quit sending their horses out to trainers. They're doing their own training and
Yeah.
shooting for higher goals, right?
Very, very cool. So let's switch gears just a tiny bit. I want to talk about some of the mistakes that you've made. You've illustrated a couple as far as launching products that weren't quite market tested, let's say, right? You didn't have people pre-purchasing and then you build it. But you've been doing this a long time. What kind of things do you think, you know, well, I'll rephrase it a little bit. When I ask you this, just what kind of mistakes have stood out to you that if you could go back and you'd change them a little bit or you took the biggest learnings from them, is there anything that kind of stands out that you think might benefit other folks to hear about?
Well, I think I touched on it before, like being afraid. Like after I got, launched twice with big fails and stuff,
Yeah.
I think I would have then because I believed in it, and I knew that
Of
my
course.
program was solid, and it was getting better all the time, just because of the idea that I was trying to make it for online, right? And
Right.
I think I would have just, you know, um, got some help back then. Like, I knew it was kind of
Mm.
growing, but I thought, oh yeah, it works for everything. Like, it works for, golf and those kind of things, but it's not going to work for a horse for a while. So I thought I'd wait until some big dogs started, or some of the bigger guys started doing it more online, and I'd have somebody to copy a little bit, right? But
Ah, yeah, yeah.
so I would have just gotten some help in, I follow, Dean Graziosi and Tony
Yeah.
Robbins a lot too, and I mean, those guys have been really good for me to open up my eyes and believe, right? And Tony's
Yep.
amazing at that stuff. He'll put a fire in your butt if nobody else can, to give you that belief, and just go take that uncomfortable step that gets you down the road a little further. So, like I said, I kinda yeah, it took the wind out of my sail for a few years, and I wouldn't have done that. I'd just keep hitting it and keep swinging till you, because the juice is worth the squeeze, when you figure this out. Like, I'm not building something that's just gonna retire me, although that was what it started to be. I just wanna make sure I was gonna
Mm,
have a retirement, because crippled up old horse trainer, that can't even afford a
totally.
cup of coffee, and that's kinda it. I've seen it, right? I've seen lots of them that go before me, and if I'm
Mhm.
gonna end up like, if I follow exactly what they did, I'm gonna end up exactly where they're at. So, but now it's more about, helping people with horses, like I said, and that is gonna end up, if I build it right, it's gonna be there for not only my kids, but my grandkids, and so that's what's kinda juicing me up. It keeps me going in that direction.
Well, your perspective is so right on, and to get mentorship outside of your industry is so important.
Yeah.
That's what we try to be. We try to at least position ourselves as much as possible to help all the different coaches across the industries, because really the business of coaching and training is not dissimilar in each area. The best practices very much carry through. Now, the specifics of the programming you're delivering and the technical pieces, obviously, that's very specific to your world. But everything you're talking about is the same for a golf coach, same for a tennis coach, same for anybody that wants to build a business coaching and training. So seeking that business and marketing mentorship like you've done, I mean, spot on. That's why you're having the success that you've had. But also your vision of not wanting to burn out. There's so many folks that are maybe in their 30s and 40s, and they're just cranking away, cranking away. The problem is they're going to be 70 still cranking away, and they're going to be grizzled old, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter, because we meet so many folks that are just burning out because their business is just not built in a sustainable or even intelligent way. Sadly, it's just exchanging time for money. And
Yeah.
you got to see that a ton in your industry, right? Just folks time for money, and
Yeah.
nothing else behind them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's I mean, I haven't done a good job. I don't feel I've done a good job. I'm really behind in that area, but as long as I keep working at it, then I'm okay. But lifestyle to me has always been, more important than the destination.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. I think just chasing the money is never going to get you anywhere, but the lifestyle surrounding it, and that's a big thing that we preach just internal to our own company. We have a 4-day work week. We're not grinding on everybody all hours of the night. If you need to go run off and do something, you do it. We do our
Mhm.
best to pay people well, but the whole goal is just, if you're going to be doing it, enjoy what you're doing, and hopefully your lifestyle is also working. I think far too often coaches are dedicating all their energy to their coaching and training, and their lifestyles just sucks. Just
Mhm.
really does, and it's never
Mhm.
going to get any better because they're not investing correctly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I could
A-
go on,
And
but yeah, I'm just so
I
happy
find
for
as
you.
humans, we're always after that quick fix, right? And some of
Hmm.
those things that are, worthy of what we're talking about, it's a shift, right? You really have to wrap your head around it, and then take those uncomfortable steps in that direction. Like, the amount of software and things that I've tried, like I'm using a software to
Mm,
host all my videos where they all sit, all the, and then
yep,
I come over to you guys to coach all them lessons. So now my students got to do that. So I hope
yeah.
that's why I was asking earlier about the pro version. If if I could go to do everything with Coach now, I'd definitely be interested in that for sure.
I think you're I think we could handle about 95% of it. And the reason I say
Mhm.
that is we don't have billing just yet, but we are going to be adding the subscription management piece of it into the platform hopefully this year. But as far as the hosting of content, organizing it, letting
Mhm.
people look at it, and then go to their individual space with you, I mean, we basically have all that now. So we could
Yeah.
absolutely help you transition to where there's one less login, which I think is very valuable, right? You don't
Mhm.
want people to have
It's
to go
yeah,
to multiple places.
totally. Yeah.
Um, let's talk about Coach now a little more because I know you've probably got some good advice for anybody listening that's using it. Any best practices that you've found over the 5 years? I mean, you've been cranking away. Is there some secret sauce that you've kind of found within our platform that is helping you do your job better?
Well, I don't really feel I'm utilizing it a lot. Like I said, I use the when they, I go there, I spend all my time on there. So when I hit a video, it goes off. That's great. I've learned it.
Hmm.
If I coach too many in a row, it gets backlogged and I can't send them. I got to just one at a time, make sure they load and go. So,
Oh,
I've got
sure.
that all
Yep.
figured out and stuff. But um, yeah, I haven't utilized all the, the groups and the group posts and things like that
Yep.
yet because I have the people. I always tell everyone when they register, all their content that they have in there is theirs for life, right? That was kind of a
Yeah.
deal that you guys said. So they keep that for life. So,
Hmm.
I haven't done a good job of going in and making lists and categorizing them people that have
Okay.
kind of gone out of the program. And that's what I would like to do more is then I could start, making content because it's really easy in there to make content. It's so much easier for me than the other platform I'm using, right? It's in fact I got to hire
Yeah.
somebody to do it on the other one. I can't even do it.
Mm.
But I can take an iPhone and shoot a video of me or go over a problem horse that someone's having and show that problem and then put my correction right over top of it and
Yeah.
valuable content, right? It just so, so on point. But so that's what I would like to do more is get more involved there. And
Well, you're using the core of it perfectly, and that's when the original intent of the platform when I built it so many years ago was exactly what you're doing. It's to remove email, remove text message, remove these other things, make it incredibly easy to send videos and notes and comments back and forth, keep it organized, let the athlete keep access to it lifetime. That's my belief anyway. I'm not a big fan of coaches selling the training and then wanting to delete someone's content. It's like, well, they paid for it. Like, let's make
Mhm.
sure they keep it.
I'm
Plus,
with
they're
you.
more likely to come back to you if they can go back and review it. So that's the hill I'll always die on. But
Yeah.
you're using it perfectly. Now, the evolution to your point is potentially using groups to host content that can be on demand because you can in the pro version you can control whether they see other people, whether they can comment or reply or sorry or even make their own posts. You can control all that, or you can move some people into a community. So now all these individual athletes can now be in a community with you guys. And I think there's a lot of value to that. A lot of folks are leveraging Facebook. You guys probably are doing that too. uh, but if you bring it into Coach Now, there's even more power because you're not fighting the algorithm of Facebook. They actually will see the content if you post in there because they're not being distracted by other things.
Hmm.
It might be a way for you to do kind of a mid-ticket offering when you go to a paid community. That's something that a lot of coaches do in our world, where everybody that's not ready for the high ticket, they're still paying you monthly. You're dripping some new content on them. You're maybe doing one analysis for the group. So somebody submits a video and you go, okay, I'm going to pick you, and you analyze it for everybody, and they all learn and they all benefit, but it's highly leveraged for you. The lists feature is something that we're going to be improving in the near term too. We're going to be introducing smart lists. And this will be really helpful for you because let's say you've got a couple hundred spaces in there, and not everyone's paying you currently, and they're not actively using Coach Now, perhaps, was what I would imagine anyway. So then it will automatically put that space into a list that's inactive. So you can try to bring that space back online. So it's like an email marketing platform at that point, to where you can kind of see who's opening emails, who's not. So we would give you almost a CRM. And I know you know that phrase. A lot of people don't. But
Hmm.
right now, a lot of coaches use this as a CRM. And I think the evolution of where we're going will be a little bit of learning management systems and billing to help you guys sell more digital products like you want to do, and then help you organize your customers a little bit more effectively as well. And all of those things hopefully over the next 6 months will be built out.
That's awesome. So I'm really intrigued in that. I think I'd be interested for sure in the mid-ticket offer where they can, have
Yeah.
a be a yeah. So I will
And that's
definitely
where you
be
look, and that's where you bring in your other coaches, right, to participate. There's an interview I did. If you haven't listened to it, I'd recommend it, with Matt Scorin. She's the head coach of the New Zealand surf team. So it's within our podcast list, or our YouTube, or yeah, just podcast, Connected Coach podcast. So he has 3-month cohorts. So he teaches surfers all over the world, and it's right in that mid range where they know how to catch waves, but that's about it, and that's the sweet spot for him. And he does these 3-month cohorts, mid ticket, and now he's hiring other coaches around the world to run those groups for him. And he's just leveraging our technology to do it. And I definitely see your opportunity to land in that space too.
Mhm. Yeah, I know, I like
Yeah.
it. It's definitely something I do. So, yeah, you made a
Yeah, we'll
sale
help you out.
today. I'm on.
Yeah, we'll help you out, and you're doing so many things already really well, and we'll just try to create more leverage for you, which I think is really important. So as we kind of get close to wrapping up here, because we're almost at the hour, it's been an awesome conversation. One thing that you said, and we kind of glazed over it, but I wanted to pull it back out because a lot of coaches are looking to move into high ticket annual coaching programs. It's what we advocate as much as we can, but you want to deliver lots and lots of value. And not only are you doing the one-to-one coaching side, but you're doing Zoom calls, I know, and then you're hosting these events. So I want to talk a little bit more about those events, because I think any coach, if you have a stable of annual customers, how are you going to sweeten the deal? How are you going to make it fun? How do you bring them together? So I'm curious how that's evolved, how you came up with it, and how it's working for you.
Well, I got the idea a long time ago, just always trying to think about how to keep them for life, right? And come
Hmm.
under that idea. But everybody that competes with horses, we go to horse shows, right? I load up and we go to Phoenix, or we go to Reno, or wherever we go to Oklahoma, and we go and compete. So, in the problem with all of them competitions are, it costs a lot of money to get there. And what you're having them do, I don't always agree, because horsemanship don't really come in there all the time, right? So I thought, all the things
Mm,
that they're learning in the program, let's make it a competition about that. So there's all
totally.
different levels. So we have 3 a year. The first one is called the 7 Steps Challenge, and it's 7 steps that has really allowed me to teach people to, be step by step and have a conversation with a horse. And it's also the 7 steps of staying focused on them, teaching a horse that it made my horsemanship skyrocket, right? I'd already been trained horse for 20 years, and I call it the horse I never knew, right? I discovered the horse within the horse that I never even knew
Mm,
existed. And when I look around, it don't look like anybody else knows it either, right? And I kind of keep track of what's going on. But so that's a cool thing. So what that is more liberty and tricks and getting her horses to do cool things. Like, I got a girl from Spain. She blew my mind the first time. Uh, she was a winner of that contest, and it was in the competition, they had to back their horse away. We had I call it send off food. So there's a pail of grain there, and the horse is pretty motivated to come in to get that. You have to put your hands up and be able to lift your hands towards that horse slowly and have him step back away from you, step for step. And,
mm,
I made a comment on there as I was making, I said, the one that could probably push their horse backwards 20 feet across the arena might win. And they only had 2 weeks after they had played to this, right? And I'm coaching her on CoachNow, and she says, okay, my horse is, when I go to back him up, he's just turning sideways. And if I keep pushing him, he leaves. So I said, okay, just make him leave then. Chase him around there a little bit and then set it up again, and he'll be more motivated to stay this time. And now you can
mm.
start changing your angle. And, she started using her whip and backing him up, and he's like 15 steps away from her, but he still kicks his hip one way, and she tilts her whip and pushes his hip back into place. So she's got body control on this thing, backing him up clear across the round pin. And that's another thing they had to do, is step on a glove. Just a fun exercise. We found we just throw down a glove in the arena, and then you got to grab your horse by the halter shank and place a specific foot, left, right, or hind left, or whatever, and you got to place it on that glove. And same thing, I made a comment that maybe someday somebody will be doing this at Liberty. Well, 2 weeks and she's got her horse stepping on that glove at Liberty with the same concept of she knew what
Wow.
he wanted from having a hold of him on the halter. And then she could motivate him when he'd go by and he'd go past the glove. She'd just send him all around the round pen a couple laps and then give him another try. And he got where he would get real close to the glove and just pick up one foot and place it around till he finally found it and stepped on the glove. Blew my
Oh,
mind. So I
neat.
knew we was off to something. So sorry for the long story, but that is how that evolved. And then the next challenge is a colt starting challenge. So we call it the colt starting or foundation challenge. Just what every horse needs, whether you're going to send him off to a trainer and he comes back and you're having problems, you need to put that foundation on him to go forward. Or if you're just starting your colt for the first time, those are the first steps to put on him. And then the last challenge is a horsemanship challenge. It's more of a reining pattern, kind of going towards that side of things. So a reining pattern with obstacles and stuff.
I think there's so much to glean from what you just said with all of that in this. And so when I was coaching, this was over 10 years ago now, when I was coaching athletes as my livelihood, one of the things I stumbled on, and I was a young guy, I was in my 20s, and what I soon found though is that I've got a bunch of individual athletes, right? Golf's a very individual sport. I'm giving them lessons, quote unquote, back in the day. But then my athletes, my students back then, they practiced a very particular way. They were using alignment tools. They were doing drills that were very specific, similar to what you've created, a very specific drill set, competition set. So they'd noticed each other on the driving range doing these things, and then they would go play. Oh, great! Now you work with Spencer, I work with Spencer, and that was a large impetus of creating what was then Edufy and is today CoachNow. Going, wait, how can I build community amongst my customers? That's such an important part, and I couldn't do it without an online tool, really, or hosting events. So back in the day, I would host events, do clinics and camps, and bring everybody together. And I don't see enough coaches doing that, where they have all these individuals, but they don't have the mindset that you have, which is I want a customer for life. I want an athlete for life. So how can we foster that relationship to where they're a part of your global community? I think, man, there's so much to learn from what you're doing with these big events. And I think no matter who you are listening to this, you can apply those same things. If you're selling annual programs, there's no reason why you shouldn't be getting together and have those athletes competing, or at least having fun together in some exercise where they wouldn't have normally met up. I think that's so good.
Yeah, and I mean, we learned from it too. That was the original goal, but the amount of success that they had in the last 2 weeks, like everybody's kind of plugging along and they're having some success, but the amount of success they had in the last 2 weeks of that challenge just motivated them, over the top. So then we realized that because we was thinking about taking them out, and right now they're all virtual, right? So they just send in videos
Yeah,
to compete and we judge them, but we're thinking about having a live one, maybe one a year down in Arizona where it's warm and stuff in the wintertime, and maybe
totally.
having, where the champions of all of them kind of come down there and compete and spend a couple weeks or a month down there.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
if you
So,
start leveraging the Coach Now groups and moving some of the community aspect out of Facebook, you'll have a lot of fun, I think, with these virtual challenges. And it could be because I've encouraged a lot of coaches to do something similar, where it would be golf's an easy example just because I know it better than anything. But it's like the first person to send in a video of them holding a 100-foot putt wins XYZ, right? You get all these people out there videoing themselves trying to do the thing similar to what you're describing. First
mhm.
one to get their send in a video of their horse standing on this glove or moving in this particular way wins a free Zoom or something cool, a belt buckle or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of value in creating those community challenges amongst people that are already paying customers of yours.
Well, you just said something that just turned on a major light bulb, was move them out of our Facebook community into there.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
now it all
Yeah.
clicked with the algorithm and stuff like that. Yeah, now I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So to hit that home a little bit harder, it's the problem is on Facebook, you could have a great group of people, they're excited, but unless they go to the group, a lot of times they're not even going to see your content.
Right.
Just because the algorithm doesn't let them see it. I'm a member
Mhm.
of 10 groups and I can't even remember the last time I saw a post from any of them.
I hear you.
because somebody else's burrito photo or, travel photos are more
Yeah.
important, right?
Right.
So my advice, if you want to build a strong community of people that you're coaching and teaching, Facebook's not the place to do it. I think CoachNow is a great option for it. It's not the only
Mhm.
option, but it's a really strong one. And if you're already using it, then you should totally do it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I can.
And we've got more features coming down the road that I think will make that experience even better.
Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm excited about that. Yeah. I can.
Yeah, and we'll
I,
help you. Amanda or Alex will help you move people over if it's not something you know how to do, obviously, but we'll help you with that. And I guess as we round out, Doug, I could talk to you forever, but as we round out, is there anything that maybe we haven't covered that you think any coach or trainer or anybody in the business of coaching that's listening to this could
no,
benefit from? Is there
I
anything
don't think
else that you
so.
might
I've
want to
really
share?
enjoyed it and learned lots. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Same. So yeah, thanks again for being on with us, and look forward to continuing to success and partnership with you guys, and really excited to see your business keep growing. And for those that are still with us at the end of this conversation, you probably want to listen to it again, because I think there was a lot of stuff in here that Doug shared that you need to put into your business. And yeah, there's just too much good stuff. So thanks again, Doug. Appreciate your time, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.